Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is BYOTableTalk, episode number 4. And in this iteration of BYOTableTalk, we're actually going to dip out of specific locations as kind of guideposts of our history. And we're going to talk about things like BOBYOT and the handful of full-length productions that BYOT's put on over the past 8 years in May. Damn. So to kick us off, because I don't want to preface too much a little bit, I want our lovely cast of commentators to chime in on all the stuff. Let's give a brief intro for myself, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of it. My name is Dakota Paraset. I'm going to be moderating. I'm the artistic director for BYOT, and my pronouns are he and his.
Hi, I'm Megan. I was a production manager and then artistic director of BYOT. I'm currently on the advisory board, and my pronouns are she, her.
I guess. Okay. Hi. My name is Ross Childs. I have been an actor and a writer and a performer in various roles throughout BYOT since almost its inception, going back to like 2013. And my pronouns are he, him, his.
Hi. My name is Tanise Robnett, and I've been with BYOT since 2014 on and off. I'm primarily a writer, and I've done some acting, and my first time directing was with Ross. So that's cool. And my pronouns are she, her.
Awesome. And thanks again, everyone joining. Megan, now this is your 3rd time, I think, of the 4.
Yeah.
And Ross and Tanise, thanks for joining us for the first of hopefully many. Over the course of 8 years in May, I'm just going to start saying that. BYOT has, of course, been known as Chicago's sort of premier 24-hour theater company. It's like our bread and butter. That's the big thing that we do. But sometimes it's fun to play with things over more time than 24 hours. And if I understand correct, that was kind of the impetus for BOBYOT. But you keep hearing BOBYOT. So to kind of pass it over to you, Megan, since you were an artistic director overseeing that, what is BOBYOT and what kind of inspired the whole thing?
So BOBYOT stands for Best of BYOT, or Best of Bring Your Own Theater. And it started as a celebration of the past year. So we would work as a company to pick what we thought were 5 of the biggest standout scenes from the year prior. And then we would give them a little bit more rehearsal time so we could polish them a little bit. The writers could fix the scripts a little bit if they wanted to, and really give them a chance to shine with full production value and everything like that. Another component of that became a sort of competition, was how it started. So the audience could vote on which of those scenes they liked the best, and then that scene had the opportunity to be fleshed out into a full length that would be produced later. So that was kind of the whole idea behind what BOBYOT was.
Gotcha. And I don't think it happened right away, right? It took a couple years for it to, when was the first one?
The first one, I believe, was the first year I was part of BYOT. It's actually one of the first things I ever did with them. And that was the year that By Death won, which I don't know years, but it was
2015.
2015. Yeah.
I was just going through my emails trying to find some references because I don't remember everything. So I was trying to.
Yeah. So 2015.
Yeah, I also have, because I'm a nerd, and I wanted to get all of the plays from BOBYOT compiled into one list. And it looks like, yeah, it was written by Josh Leeper, and the original scene Holy shit. It's from September 2014.
Yep,
Yeah, that sounds
I
right.
was there. I was there.
So
Like,
that first one was at the Cards for Humanity Theater, actually.
I remember
And
that, yeah.
the first big thing I ever did with BYOT, I was costumes and makeup for that.
Tanise, Ross, were either of you in that show, or did you guys?
I was
Um,
definitely not in the show. I was in the terrible show right before. But anyway, I mean,
No,
I
was-
wrote. But I was there. Were you there, Ross?
I was there. I remember it. The thing is, I have very selective memory when it comes to BYOT because I
Mhm.
don't remember half the shows I've been in, but I do remember some of the shows I've seen.
Mhm.
And I don't remember if I was even in a show that night, but I do remember seeing the original scene. I probably was in a show that night, and if the person who wrote said show is listening right now, I'm sorry. But yeah, I do remember by definition that night. It was a good one. It was it was fun. I'm trailing off. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're good. I'm just looking at the list, and I'm gonna try to rapid fire if any of them sound familiar. But I got By Definition, Visiting Hours, I Am That I Am by one Raphael Schwartzman,
Mhm.
Too Many Cooks by Meg,
Yay.
Women in the Kitchen with Baileys by Corey O'Brien,
Mhm.
Lumberjack by Corey O'Brien, All Part of the Plan by Zach. I don't know how you say that last. Zianka.
Who's on?
Bianca. Yeah.
We're not
Bear and the
separated by
Panther.
year though. So
Huh?
you've gone into the next year.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Two Women in the
Okay,
Kitchen with
so the
Baileys.
first five of them.
Yeah, Two Women in the Kitchen with Baileys was the last one for the first year.
That one, yeah, I
Mhm.
remember them. I remember that one was Rachel and Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
That makes
And
sense.
it was good.
What was that one about? That's a dumb question.
That one was about two women, spoiler alert, who want to murder their husbands.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
one of them has the plan to murder her husband, and the other one gets jealous because she didn't think of it first.
God. Well, someone has a script for that. Please send it to me because I want to read that. Amazing. So yeah. Well, so then there was that one, but then there was it kind of a continuous year for those first two BOBYOTs? Like you had the one for, you said 2015 and then one in 2016?
Mhm. Yeah. So the idea was to do one every year. So we did BOBYOT 2015 that turned into the 2016 full length. And then between that, we did the 2016 BOBYOT, because the way we always did it was BOBYOT was in May and then the full length was in August, which we learned did not give us enough time. So
Wow.
we spread it out, is what the staff learned. But so the 2016 BOBYOT is what led us into the Rover, which we can talk about later.
Oh yeah, I
And-
remember that. Ha. Sorry.
Be professional, Ross. And then we had the 2017 BOBYOT, which I'm pretty sure is when you came in, Cody.
Yeah, I auditioned in December 2017, and then we were rehearsing January, February.
From
Yeah.
what I recall about the 2017 BOBYOT, we didn't pick a full-length show to do from that one, right?
No, we changed how we did things. And that year, I don't think we were able to, we were doing aces and eights that year, is what it turned into. So we didn't pick anything from that. And eventually and we can talk about this later, we changed it from the audience voting on which scene they liked the best to having more so of a committee to pick which one we thought would be a good full length.
Yeah, well, and that's my next question, was what kind of was the selection process for the shows that got into BOBYOT, and then with the kind of grow a show aspect of it, what was that selection process then?
So the shows in BOBYOT, those were all picked by the staff, which was a huge time commitment. So everybody on staff had to read every single show, every single scene that had come from the year prior. And then we had like huge meetings to kind of, or email back and forth to kind of whittle down to what we thought would be not only the best sampling of the scenes, but make sure that we had, we didn't have a writer represented more than once, and we were giving people a chance to really shine and, you know, have a balanced show. So I wasn't part of the selection process in the first year, but if you read those scripts, there's a couple of very serious scripts mixed into that show, so they balanced it out with some funnier ones as well. Visiting hours was really intense, and so was I Am What I Am. So they needed to make sure that there was a good balance between all of that. And then as far as picking the full length, like I said, originally it was full on just voting. So the audience would vote every night of which scene was their favorite. And then at the end of the run, whoever had the most votes got the full length. We ran into some opportunities when we did that and realized that sometimes it's a little bit harder for a full length to be written from certain scenes, and the audience doesn't necessarily know that. They just know that they really liked that scene or they really liked that writer. So for those reasons, we moved away from just a flat vote and put it more back into the hands of the staff, so that there could be a little bit more control of the process to make sure that quality full length was written.
So then that kind of leads then, at least to my next kind of question then. Well, actually, quick detour. So for each of you, what is kind of by def, of course, and like aces and eights, but what are some other kind of standout scenes from the ones that we talked about, or the most recent one, which was about 4 years ago, because pandemics.
I loved Too Many Cooks. I was in the original one. My favorite role I've ever played, because I'm always nice, happy, and I got to be evil, and it was awesome. Yeah.
One of the more recent ones, Lumberjack, is a phenomenal scene about this psychologist who's like manipulating his patients. And I think when I got the opportunity to direct it when it was in just the regular BYOT for Halloween, and then I got to direct it for BOBYOT, and both sets of my actors were just so good and so creepy, and it was so much fun to do a scene like that it's definitely one that sticks out to me.
Nice. Ross, you got any standout ones?
Oh man, now that I'm on the spot, it's like I do remember Too Many Cooks. Was that the one where Rachel Silvert was doing drugs out of an apple?
No. Not that I remember. It was the original one was John Cook and me and Barbara. I'm so sorry. I suck.
Cooking show.
Yeah, it was a cooking show. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a cooking show. It was like he inherited a restaurant and didn't know how to cook. So we were there
thought-
for a
I
cooking
could have
class.
sworn Rachel played a stoner in that one.
She could have.
Yeah,
That's possible. There was definitely a stoner in it.
yeah.
I don't remember
Yeah.
the apple.
That was yeah. So I am remembering the correct one. Yes, that was a good one. That was a good one. That was sorry. I'm trying to remember all these things, and as soon as someone tells me to remember something, I can never remember it.
Yeah.
It's like taking a test.
Well, I just have to chime in real quick and say, like Megan, BOBYOT was actually my first show. So even though we're a 24-hour theater company, I came into like a full-fledged like traditional process. And I think I've only ever been acted in one 24-hour show, which is that needs to change. But
How many have you directed?
I think 5 or 6. I've directed many. I've written and directed probably about the same amount. But just to talk about that audition process, the first show, looking at this list, the first show I did with BYOT in the audition, and it's the Confession by Meg Riley.
Oh
Mark
yeah,
Twain. I remember getting the script and being asked to read for a woman, and in my head I'm just like, oh, okay, here we go. And I'm just sitting in there full, like I have this like breakdown or something. So I just remember reading it, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun. And I go in there and just I started yelling like this, and it was fantastic. It was a joy.
The enthusiasm we did.
But my favorite BOBYOT show, obviously is going to be one that I was probably in. It's probably Backyard Barbecue, which was written by you, Ross.
I didn't want to talk about my stuff because I felt like that would be cheating.
No, please do, please do. Because I mean, we're about to talk about your baby,
Yeah.
your play baby, Aces and Eights. So I think that's a good segue into kind of so eventually the BOBYOT process turning into kind of the Grow Show process. By Def is a big one. Then the second one that we've done out of the 3 full lengths was the Rover, which was clearly not a Grow Show theme.
Yeah.
But then Aces and Eights. So what was that process like because it was actually a part of the initial BOBYOT, I think, wasn't it? Or it was the second
It was the
BOBYOT?
second one. It was the second one, the one from
It was part of
2016.
the second BOBYOT. So without getting too much into it, there had been a play that was chosen that we were unable to bring to fruition as a full length, which is why we went with the Rover that year. Because of that, we decided it would be fair to pick someone else from that pool and allow them to create a full length. So as a staff, we decided on Aces and Eights. We thought it would be a really fun show to do. So we got Ross working on that as soon as we could to give him enough time to really expand Aces and Eights into what it needed to be for the workshops and the full length the next year.
So you kind of had a year-long process then of because initially it's a 9-page scene, and the final product was, I think, Ross, you pumped out 110 pages.
Wow. Congrats.
Which kind of
Took a while. Megan was there to help me because fortunately at the time I was living like a block away from where Megan was living, so we had
there were a couple of instances of late night babysitting.
Yeah.
But what so Aces and Eights, we keep saying the title. What is Aces and Eights about?
Aces and Eights is I'm always fascinated by the trope of the crime noir film noir type stuff. I just like the lonely saxophone playing in the background over the really brooding monologues, internal monologues where you have like this lone, hard-boiled detective against the world. But confession time, when I wrote the original scene, I hadn't seen a lot of actual film noir stuff. Most of the stuff I'd seen was parodies of film noir. So it was basically a parody of parodies of film noir. Which was actually perfect for me, because then those parodies, especially the really good ones, really highlight the ridiculousness of film noir, without taking itself too seriously. And what's great about that stuff is that it's just because it is ridiculous. It is so ridiculous, like the amount of things that these characters in these shows, in these movies, in these television programs just take so seriously. And oh man, I'm losing my train of thought. It is really early for a Sunday. Someone cut me off, please.
So it was a second for film noir, and it was definitely a comedy. It was a lot more action based than a lot of the stuff we had done before, which was really exciting. And we had a lot of fun with it. It was definitely a different vibe than By Def, for sure. So
Something I've never mentioned though is the title. The title has nothing to do with the show whatsoever. I called it Aces and Eights just because that's the dead man's hand in poker. That's it. I thought it sounded cool.
Well, we'll have to we'll have to add a scene where there's like a dead man. Although there is kind of a lot of death, right? I think one actor dies. One actor that you've written is an ensemble character that dies like 4 times in just the first act.
yeah.
And then dies a 5th time at the very end. And then there's like an assassin who you think dies, and then comes back and actually kills said person 5th time at the climax or post climax of the show. So I mean, you did put it in there.
So I guess it does have a very loose connection with the script. So yeah, I retract my statement.
But quickly touching on, Megan, you mentioned By Def. That was the first one you guys ever did. What's that one about? Because I'm actually starting to watch it. But
the full name is By Definition. It was a Josh Leeper show, and the original premise was that it was sometime in the future in this utopian society, and these 2 workers stumbled upon the Kanye West presidential library that had been sealed off, which unfortunately now doesn't seem that ridiculous.
Right?
And people in this society weren't allowed to read, weren't allowed to learn anything. So they like end up reading all of these books and sort of opening this Pandora's box. So the original scene was literally Jordy Williams and oh my God, I can't remember the other.
It was
person.
Ryan Wright.
Ryan Wright, you're right. Jordy Williams and Ryan Wright sitting in the middle of these piles of books. And it was such a fun, goofy scene. And then it evolved in the full length into this like commentary on knowledge and this really fun like sci-fi sort of show that was just a blast for everybody.
And coincidentally, actually, was that the first show you guys had done at the Charnel House?
It was. We were really excited about getting that space because it had an actual stage that we could use. Bless their hearts, no lamps though. So there was a lot of late night hot gluing accidents because we were plugged into the one outlet in the wall, basically in the dark. But it was the first time we used that space and we realized it worked really, really well. So that's kind of where our relationship started with them.
Yeah, man. Oh, Miss Toronto House and key burritos.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's still there if you want to if you want to eat there, it's still there.
It's so far away.
Yeah.
we are not sponsored by, but our key burrito.
Key Burritos, if you would like to sponsor us, the off chance that the owner is listening to this podcast, we are open to a sponsorship. We are willing to forego any monetary contributions in lieu of sandwiches.
Gosh. Well, so then kind of
And
segueing
empanadas.
then from advertising and sponsorships, we kind of touched a little bit on ByDef and ACEs. So I do want to get a little bit into the workshop process, which I think everyone's kind of here been involved to a certain degree, whether you've been kind of a respondent, virtual audience member, or a reader for a few of those. And then we can, I do want to kind of touch back on a little memory lane for BOBYOTs and full length and stuff. But over the course of the pandemic, one of the things, or actually prior to the pandemic, one of the things that the new staff and myself wanted to start to kind of integrate into the system was working towards sort of small scale production. It was actually a process inspired by Megan. Your initial rehearsal or your initial development on ACEs, because ACEs started off as a scene to a first act, and then a whole second act. And so I was really inspired by that process. So the idea was to take a full length written by a company member or someone who was close to being a company member and finding another way to do what we do with 24-hour shows, but taking that week-long kind of process of staging a show, giving actors a week as opposed to 24 hours to play with the characters, do character work, do table work, and put it up on its feet for a small audience to then give a playwright kind of a feedback in a BYOT way, kind of a quick pace, fast pace, but very accessible process. And so March 2020 happens, and so now we have to go from, oh, it's not on its feet, it's on screen now. And I think the first one that we ever did was Ab Reaction by Jay Rohr, which, Megan, I think you were a part of that one. It was kind of like a secret life of psychiatrists story. And then a second one was, we've done 2 readings of this one, but Michael Mayer's Fracture, which is kind of a thriller horror asylum show mixed with like, oh God, what would you call it? Like cybernetic. It's kind of intense.
Definitely another sci-fi show. Yeah.
Yeah. And then a couple of one acts, and then we did kind of a rom-com one by our media director, Ben Schatzel. But other than that, we've done 2 other ones, one of which was our first staged one, called That Thing in the Bathroom, which was in October. But the one that we did twice in 2021 was written by you, Tanise. So I do want to give you a little bit of a chance. What was the name of your play, and what's kind of the elevator pitch of the play?
It's called Eternity Today, and it's about a news team in heaven in the afterlife. And basically the main character is Angelica One, and she gets bored of reporting news every day about like cloud avalanches and such. So she decides that she wants to go to the quarantine, which is AKA hell, which is where all the bad people go, or the bored people. So basically it's her running away from the news show with her companion Angelica Dose, and they're venturing into hell basically. to find out what goes on there. So yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah. And then kind of the process that we had to build off of the Aces and Eights Act 1 process, is kind of what I call it,
Mhm.
was doing an initial read. And you can stage things on Zoom, but you can't really stage things on Zoom. So it kind of turned more into like a table read night one. Then you give the playwright gave you guys the opportunity to make any edits and stuff. And then that goes into a live stream reading. So what was kind of that process for you in terms of hearing it for the first time and then having a chance to look at rewrites or edits and things?
I was really nervous the first time for sure. And yeah, just kind of nervous the whole time through. By the way, I co-wrote it with my boyfriend, Olive. I didn't mean to not give credit. And yeah, I was just kind of on the edge of my seat the whole time, but it was really cool to hear it. Like, it's always really great. I'm sure Ross has the same experience of being able to like hear your words coming back to you, you know, the stuff that you've toiled over and, you know, wanted to get it perfect and right. To hear it coming back to you is like really cool. And then I was able to we were able to see what didn't make sense, which is a big thing to me. I want everything to make sense, and for the characters to really grow. And it was great getting commentary back from the actors and you, Dakota. It was awesome. It's a great time.
Yeah, because both of your scenes actually, I know, Tanise, you did yours with, I think it was Women's Theater Alliance initially, right?
Yeah.
What is it kind of like to see a show that's only 10 pages kind of over the course of a year, like an actual baby, like it grows, it
Yeah.
gets big. I'm curious, like, what is that like? And you guys can speak to kind of the process through the BYOT work. But well, what's that like?
I guess
Or Megan, what's it?
Yeah.
Or Megan, what for the playwrights, what's that like? And for Megan, what's it like working with a playwright throughout that process? Whoever wants to answer those.
I'll let the playwright go first, and then I'll chime in.
Well,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, we're talking to this playwright or that playwright?
Both of us.
Oh,
Both of us.
I'll let you go first, Tanise.
So the writing process was a little different for me because I was co-writing, and we would just be at the computer, and we would research like Greek gods or whatever else there is to it, and there was just like a lot of discussion between us before we would write, and then we would talk about, well, this is what's happening in this scene. I would have preferred to have had to know the ending. We didn't actually know how it was going to end and where it was going to go. So it was really nice with the workshop to be able to come up with the structure, and to have guidance from Dakota to go through it. So that was really helpful in moving it forward and moving it into a structured plot thing, making it more simple instead of having a whole bunch of different plot lines, and things like that. So it was really, really helpful. And I'm proud of how it turned out.
Well, we're just talking about the process of actually seeing your words become flesh. That's always very exciting. I've lost count of the number of scenes I've written for BYOT, but I remember the ones that stand out to me the most. You can't overstate the joy you experience when you write something and it makes a room full of people laugh their ass off. That happened. The thing that because it's not just a sense of accomplishment, it's a sense of vindication almost. Like, yes, I knew that was funny. But the thing that jumped out with me, as far as like the full length of Aces and Eights, I got to see it twice, because it ran for 2 weekends, and seeing the progress from one weekend to the other was like wow, it was great. Like, because I think the first time I saw it, it was, I believe, opening night, and you know, there were still some. First of all, the actors and the director did a phenomenal job. Everyone did a phenomenal job, but I could tell that there were still some kinks that needed to be worked out. But like by the end of the run, it was perfect. Like the second time I saw it, it was perfect. It was amazing, and like seeing my words come to life like that it's nothing short of, it just makes you go, oh. And like when people laugh at one of my stupid puns, like the one that jumps out to me the most is when the captain is talking to Frankie and says, how's the investigation going? And it says, it's going where you find water underground. How's that now? Well. And the whole room erupting in laughter at that really stupid pun I wrote. The whole room erupting in laughter just made me feel like so it's a wonderful feeling. And not just when things you create like work out, but when things you didn't think were funny, or things that you didn't think were like, I don't know, just like pieces of dialogue and pieces of story that you kind of, for lack of a better term, just put in there as filler, end up getting a huge laugh or become an important part of the story. When the actors and directors of the shows that you write make discoveries that you didn't even realize were there, that's also a really good feeling. Is when it takes on a life of its own and goes beyond you. So that's a really good feeling.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like, out of the 4 of us that are here, 3 of us were a part of kind of like the bulk of the fostering of this theater child into the world. But Megan, like, you were kind of there through the whole thing, like beginning, middle, and end. So like what was that process like for you?
So there's always a big sense of responsibility when you're doing any major project for the company, but especially for this, you not only have a responsibility to the company to actually get the show up, but you have a responsibility to the author, the playwright, to help them as best as you can and not make it a traumatic experience. So you become a midwife, basically. So you're trying to help the playwright through their labor of writing this show and help them meet their deadlines and help them get to where they need to be. But you also have to be conscious of the fact that this is their baby. And usually when you're writing something for yourself, there's not a deadline. There's not a timeline that you need to meet. So you have to be cognizant of all those things and also bring in sort of the practical aspect of it. Like, hey, if the playwright suddenly decides we need a car in this scene, we're gonna have to talk about that, because as a company, we can't support that. Like, we need to be practical about what we can do. So it's always, as the artistic director, I'm sure, Cody, you know, it's finding that line between really supporting the artistic side of things and also being practical and making sure that, like, yes, we have this by the deadline. Yes, it's something we can use. Yes, this is going to help move the company forward. So you're kind of orchestrating all of these things, which sometimes does take you out of the artistic process of it, which can be you know, a little bit interesting if that's where you've always been, but it's really nice to see everything come up on its feet and get to where it was supposed to be and know that you've been there every step of the way to get it to where it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I also have the unique experiences of kind of being on the playwright side of things too. So both of your guys' comments about just like, it's amazing when anything that starts in here ends up out there and you're just like, it's real. I didn't just imagine.
Wasn't a fever dream.
I just have to, with in a slight little segue, I still have my Aces and Eights poster, and it is right here. And I will never part with it. And I just have to say also, Ross, probably my favorite stage direction from that play is just very simply put. I think Francine says something, and then it's just Scotch, period. And I'm just like, take a drink right there. Just take a drink. I think that's what it means. But gosh, well, I really appreciate you guys sharing all of that, and just anytime we do something like this and I get to see my people, it's wonderful to hear you guys talk about your experiences. I am not going to cry, but I don't really cry ever, but it always just settles right here. So to send us off, because I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, what are just what's one or two things that that you've really enjoyed, either again with your full lengths or a BOBYOT, be it in rehearsal or anything? Mine will always be the ball gag incident. And that is something we got to break these down at some point. So we'll talk about this BOBYOT. We'll talk about this all episode for Aces and all that. But what's one of those a brief story about that, or what is something that you're looking forward to when we get out of round 2 of this nonsense?
That's nonsense.
Who wants to go first?
I guess I will. Well, sorry, what was the first question again? Because I was thinking about just COVID.
Like what's like what's a very brief crazy story or favorite memory from a BOBYOT or full length process?
Well, I have been involved in every BOBYOT in some way, shape, or form. And the first one, I was a prop master. And I remember working with someone who actually knew how to use Photoshop, which I don't, and making some of the props for by definition.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember now.
I made a whole bunch of book titles. And I don't remember all of them, but they were all like memoirs and autobiographies written by people who were famous at the time. And because when it was written was when the Ray Rice fiasco happened. And Megan's giving me a face right now.
I'm remembering the titles.
Yeah, and that's the only one I remember offhand. And I'm not.
Tiger Blood by Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. Because that was around the time of like the whole Charlie Sheen, when he was losing his effing mind. But there was one I did for Taylor Swift. It was called "It's Not Me, It's You." There was one I did for Ariana Grande. No, for Rebecca Black.
That was the Ariana Grande one.
She wasn't famous back then.
No, it wasn't Ariana Grande. I got her confused with Rebecca Black.
That was very blue too. I can't remember what it was, but it was very R-rated if I remember correctly.
But going from like just being a prop master to actually being in a show and then being in a show that you wrote, that was a weird that was a weird transitory period, because I was in it was a Backyard Barbecue was the one I wrote, and I got cast in that in a role I specifically wrote for Vinnie Greco. And so I had to basically be me doing an impression of a character I wrote for somebody else. So it's this weird mindscape. Because you don't want to do a carbon copy. But yeah, that was actually some of my first experiences with Cody, because Cody was in that. It was you.
Yeah, that was my second ever show that I was in.
Me, and Dante, and directed by Megan.
Wow.
There it is.
And I just remember
backwards.
I'll chime in real quick. My memory is probably that show. I was in the second half of the show. So the whole first half, I'm just like, oh God, here we go. And then we go up, and I remember forgetting a line that you jumped on, Ross. And I was like, fuck. And then I had to run off stage and get basically just destroyed. I think it was either by the raccoons in the trench coat or your dog.
It was
and
raccoons.
I remember I had to come out. Yeah, so I had to run off stage, quickly change into this tattered, ripped up, like flannel shirt, which I still have. And as I'm trying to riff, and I'm completely forgetting what I'm supposed to be doing, Vinny like has this bag of red paint or like fake blood that Megan, you probably made. He just puts his hand in there and just slaps me right on the chest. He just like paints me over, and the whole time I'm just like, yep, that's a memory.
It is our core memory. Cody, I don't think you ever realized this, but you had most of the women in that cast a little Twitter pated from that from the flannel.
Cody, there is a burden. There is a burden you must bear, and that is you are an incredibly, and I do not mean to objectify here, you are an incredibly attractive individual on numerous levels, both emotional, physical, mental, a lot of different levels. And
we talk about her experiences with BOBYOT.
Yeah,
it's really nice for us, but Tanise. I appreciate you, Ross, but
moving on.
So I guess one of the moments that I remember as far as like recording for Zoom was there's an actress, I'm not sure if you'll figure it out. And she's usually like kind of a low-key actress. Doesn't like, I mean, she's a good actress, but she's not like a, in your face actress. And we had her playing Hera, who's Zeus's wife. And it was just amazing to see her like come alive with the role and just embrace it. And she was big, and she was just like, it was awesome to see that happening. And I hadn't seen it happen before with her. And yeah, that just touched my heart. And I just thought it was so cool. And yeah, so yeah, she played the heck out of Hera. And then another thing that I thought was so cool was there's a woman who played Angelica Dos, and she was in Spain. So she was up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to do this recording of this play. And I was like, oh my gosh, somebody woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do a play that I wrote or co-wrote or whatever. So I don't know, those things were cool. And just one last memory of doing the whole thing, there was like a really sentimental moment between Angelica Dos and her grandfather, and people were crying. The actors were crying, and my scripts have never made anybody cry. I'm always like trying to make things funny. So to be able to hit somebody that emotionally, and it was the acting and directing too. That was really cool. And just as a last note, I looked forward to every week that we got to talk about the script with Dakota. because it was really helpful. Because you're like, when you're writing, and Ross, and both of you can kind of attest to it, you're just kind of in your own cloud, and you don't know, like, you're kind of just like lost in the forest. So it's really cool to have somebody make comments and be able to see things that you can't see. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of you. You all make my life better.
Okay, so the first BOBYOT, I was doing costumes and makeup. We had one scene that was in a prison, and all of the jumpsuits we found were just, they had like weird things on them, like screen printed on them, or everything like that. So I remember I actually had to source a prison jumpsuit from my father, who was a police officer at the time. So he gave me like real jumpsuit.
Oh, wow.
Return after the show. And then there was one point, because we did not have a lot of time between the scenes, that I had to take 4 of our actors in the dark, like outside the theater in pitch black, and make them look like they had drowned in about 90 seconds. So in true BYOT fashion, there I was standing in the dark with 4 different makeup brushes in my hair, with makeup already applied, beauty blenders in hand, waiting for them to run off stage, get in their costumes, and just like blew them up on their faces and their hands and throw them on stage. And that, like, 5 seconds of chaos always kind of encapsulates sort of the BYOT experience. Like, we make it work, we find a way, and then we have this great product on stage. And then just directing the next BOBYOT at HQ was so much fun and such like a crazy experience. And it's always getting to meet you, Cody. I don't know if we ever told you this, but when you did your audition, Robin and I looked at each other and we're like, yeah, we're going to keep him. Like, like immediately we were like, yeah, we're like, he's one of us. We can tell, like, he's going to stick around. Having those moments is really what being in this company is all about. And I think BOBYOT really kind of encapsulates that whole thing. So it's always a fun time to be a part of it.
Yeah. And to kind of speak to that, like, that's probably when I think back to BOBYOT and just some of my favorite moments. It's definitely Ross, one of your what was it? It was either a New Year's party or or one of your many parties at your old Morse place. But definitely like trekking up in like 2-inch snow up to your apartment, Megan, your Rogers Park apartment, which is almost in Evanston, but going up there and just having like a rehearsal in your space with Zoe, like tail whipping around, but just getting
Zoe.
Yeah, just getting to watch other people work and getting to see other people just have a good time in a low-key rehearsal process, and then you put it up and you drop your ball gag and you get slapped with a handful of blood by vinegar, and that is just so.
Who was in the original cast of Backyard Barbecue? It was Vinny, it was Greg Torbeck, and
was it Dante again? Was he in it as well?
I don't remember.
Or Bob Romay.
Maybe it was Bobby.
Maybe.
Because that was our backyard show when we did it the first time.
Oh yeah, that was the inspiration for the scene.
Yeah.
Because Lisa Van Alsdale was had a brief cameo as the woman who turned out to be three raccoons in a trench coat, which the only reason why I even put that in there as a gag is because while I was writing the script, I was just thumbing through Reddit for like just as a distraction, and I came across a tweet that said that it's like every time I think I meet the right person, turns out to be 3 raccoons in a trench coat. And
sponsored by the raccoons in a trench coat.
By the way, a topical joke. Did you know that the current head of the CDC is actually just 3 variants of COVID in a trench coat?
On a field.
And with that, I would like to just say thanks, Megan. Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Tanise, for sharing some of your Sunday. It was early, but it means a lot to see all of you, and just get a chance to talk a little bit about the company and the history of the company. And yeah, I think we got probably 2 or 3 more of these, but there definitely need to be more about specific things, just talking about the specific things.
Yeah.
But thanks to all of you, everyone watching this. Thanks for watching this. Give us a like, share, follow us on all the social medias, and stay tuned. BOBYOTs are coming up. Full length, maybe. Lots of workshops though. So thanks everybody.